Okay guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be going over my defense build and how I run with defense. Now this build can be used in PvE and PvP, so without further ado, let's go. And as always, going to start off with my talents. So, I don't need triage. You want to use on the move instead of triage, just want to swap that out right now. Anyway, obviously I run with my 2 normal with critical save and combat medic. Everybody knows why. If you're running in a group, those are kind of really beneficial, and critical save with this build is amazing because you'll get that increased damage resistance after using it at low health. I use precision just to pulse them and get a little bit more DPS, and obviously I use on the move because I want to become as tanky as possible, because if you are playing defense, your main role within the group is to be the tank. So onto the skills. I use an immunizer, you can use a booster, you can use any other skill. The secondary skill, personal, comes down to your personal preference. I like to run an immune simply because of the pred, fire, shocks, all that sort of stuff, so I can comfortably sit in my immune box, roam around it so I don't get killed basically. So I also run with a assault shield. It doesn't, when you're using the 6-piece, it doesn't really matter because all the stats are the same, but you know, the only thing that changes is the appearance of your shield. That's literally it, and the bonus you get with it. So obviously assault shield for the DPS is where you want to be. Now on to the weapons. I'm using my normal house with the deadly. Unfortunately responsive is not unlocked because of the 9k stamina that you need on this build, but in saying that, I've still got my deadly, I've still got card counter, so I'm still going. And if I'm not using my shield, I've got an SASG with unforgiving, predatory for those smacking them on the floor kills, and responsive, which is on a shotgun for me is a given. It's a must. You need to be running with it. Obviously, I've got the same pistol as on all my other builds with predatory, vicious, but I only realistically use it for predatory. That's it. Now onto the build itself. Quickly going over the pieces that come with it. 2 pieces protection from elites, which if you're using this build for PvE, doing legendary missions and such, it is really good. Your ballistic shield damage resilience, basically making your shield a little bit more tanky, which is really good obviously. And the given 4-piece, which basically means you can use an SMG with your shield. Now it has had a bit of a change. Ballistic shield health is increased by 57% for every 3000 stamina, so even if you are only using 4-piece, you want to be hitting that 9k simply so your ballistic shield health isn't shocking. So the 5-piece, more protection from elites and even more ballistic shield damage resilience, which again, if you're using it in PvE, it's really good. Now let's quickly go over the 6-piece. When ballistic shield is deployed, melee damage is increased by 2000%, and if you've watched my strat roulette part 1, you'll see that I actually completed a legendary mission just by bashing them and using the secondary skill. And here's the main important thing for this that you need to keep in mind when you are using this in PvP. Any and all overhealing the player receives is applied to the ballistic shield as healing. After reaching a damage threshold from receiving physical or exotic damage being grenades, the ballistic shield grants a buff to the player and all group members within 15 meters for 6 seconds. The duration of the buff is increased by 2 seconds for every 3000 stamina the player has. So for physical damage, your armor is increased by 30%. For exotic damage, which I've already mentioned, grenade and such, weapon damage is increased by 30%. So realistically, like you would with Final Measure, you want to be running into those grenades as much as possible, as quickly as possible, to get that buff. It's really hard to get that buff in PvP. I've only ever got it once, but the physical damage one, increasing your armor by 30%, isn't really beneficial. It's good if you're running a tanky, if somebody else is running a tanky nomad or pred build, it is really good, but it's very situational. When at 9000 stamina, ballistic shield health is increased by 200%, which is really important. So before I go over the build itself, I'm just going to show you the total HP on my shield, which is there, as you can see on screen. It also does have a skill cap, so if you guys want to be running a little bit more skill power on your build, I would not bother going anywhere over 125,000 because your shield won't actually receive any more health at all. Now, going on to the build itself, I run with it rolled onto stamina, I run with health, enemy armor damage, and ammo capacity. The reason being that I have enemy armor damage on this build, or on this chest piece, is because I do primarily use this build for legendary missions on PvE, so I can blitz through these NPCs a little bit quicker. The mods I run are firearms with health and firearms with skill haste, reason being because if you lose that shield you want to get it back ASAP, because without it you're useless basically. Going on to the mask, I run with skill power, it's rolled into stamina, and I've got disorient resistance, reason being is because in PvE you are going to get flashed, thrown grenades at quite a few times, so I like to have a bit of disorient resistance, and as I said before, I've tried to get my skill power as high as possible just to give my shield that little bit more health. And I also run with a firearms mod with skill power. Going on to the knee pads, again rolled into stamina, and I've rolled it on health as I'm trying to be as tanky as possible and soak up as much damage in a short amount of time so that my team can get around, go behind, kill the NPCs or kill the players when you're in the dark zone. This can be used for skirmish, however I wouldn't exactly suggest it. Going on to my mods, I've got a firearms mod with skill power and first aid self heal. My performance mods on this aren't optimized properly for this build, so sometimes I do run with a booster. If I'm running in PvP, I will run with a booster shot and the ballistic shield, primarily because I want to get as much DPS as possible, because you are going to be lacking in DPS because you have to stack so much into stamina. Going on to the backpack, again rolled into stamina, I've got skill power on here as previously mentioned as to why, also with ammo capacity, and I'm running with stamina with crit chance, performance. The performance mods are first aid self heal as previously mentioned why before. Going on to the defense gloves, these are god rolled defense gloves in my perfect opinion. Why? Because you want to be getting as much crit chance and crit damage on this build as possible with what you have, because you won't really be doing as much DPS as the rest of your group because you are so tanky. Okay. Going on to the holster, again it's got the two primary attributes that I want to be going with firearms and stamina. Reason being is because I do want to get those mid-max quicker than anything else, and I wanted to leave health there because yes, if you're going to be running defense you want to be tanky, but you have to be really careful, because if you put too much into stamina and don't sort your build out properly, you won't do enough DPS to survive on your own. So when it comes to setting up a defense build, it's compromised really. You can either be tanky, somewhere in the middle, or DPS. But keep in mind that with the 6-piece and the 4-piece, your shield health does actually stack off your stamina, not your firearms. So you do want to be stacking at the bare minimum 6k stamina for the shield. And if you are using 6-piece, there is no other option but to use 9k stamina, because then you are wasting part of the 6-piece. So if you liked the video guys, if you found that it was helpful in some way to setting up your build, please give the video a like, please subscribe, and as always, it's been Red Dawn, and I will see you in a bit.